So hey y'all, I know this is not the way how I start my videos. However, YouTube is playing with me right now and I'm about to play in their face right back. They're trying to flag my compilation video that I worked 9 hours on. So I'm breaking up all the clips into separate videos so there's less of a chance for me to get flagged. So without further ado, let's get into this Young Miami video. So next up we have Young Miami being somewhat anti-city girls. So everybody's favorite city girl, Young Miami, aka Carisha, did an interview with Jason Lee and she spoke about how she feels about her daughter being a city girl. Now the definition of a city girl is kind of all over the place, but I think we all know exactly what it entails. So according to Urban Dictionary, it states, a city girl is a girl who don't give a F about no man, she's in her bag one way or another, not a hoe, but can be one, and likes to have fun because you only live once. The F. Not gonna lie, that is a horrible definition. So to me, a city girl is a mindset or a persona in which women most definitely don't care about settling down with a man. They use men at their disposal for whatever assets and materialistic items they need and the expenses that they incur. They are very promiscuous. They are often a part of the ghetto aesthetic, and they are very sexually expressive with the way how they talk, dress, and act. I think the priority of a city girl is garnering money from men to fund their lifestyles, having fun, as well as not caring about men on a romantic level. Only on a transactional level. Of course, you throw in the sexy and raunchy aspect of it as well. So Young Miami and her bandmate JT basically created this entire wave, or maybe just made it more popular. I mean, being a city girl is truly a movement. And I'll be honest, I never even thought that the city girls would be this big when they first came out. Not that I doubted them, but I just didn't think that it would stick. But it stuck. And that's when I knew that there was a shift in the way how women, and Black women in particular, were going to exist, because they have been super popular and people took a liking to the city girls when they first came out. And now, I was in college, I loved it. I liked seeing two brown-skinned girls be at the top. Their music was and still is very fun. I'll Take Your Man is still my song. I'll sing it for you verbatim. So I took it as just some fun music. They don't really mean it, but I think a lot of people really adopted what these rap girls were singing as well as living. Young Miami in particular has been very much on her city girl wave. I mean, she's in this situationship with Diddy, in which, if we're being real, she's living the city girl life. He funds a lot of her expenses according to her, and she gets the attention and clout that she needs from it. And he's also reaping the benefit of clout and having a young trophy girl in his arm, so there's dual benefit here. So when asked if Young Miami would allow her daughter to be a city girl, this is what she had to say.
Pretty as she is and says, Mom, I want to be a city girl.
She ain't gonna be no city girl.
So Summer ain't allowed to be no city girl?
No. I want her raised totally different. Like, you know, I don't even want her to even see the light of day like that. Like, I really want her to just be like, you know, like level-headed, a schoolgirl, and just on a whole nother wave. Like, you know, I kind of was raised different, so I don't want to raise her up how I was raised. So, you know, I'm a city girl, ain't nothing wrong with it, but I don't want that for my daughter.
Now, I'll be fair, I do think she makes a good point by saying that the way how she grew up is not the same way her daughter Summer is growing up. I mean, Young Miami had a baby when she was very young. Her mother went to jail for murder when she was very young as well. She had to fend for herself and her siblings. So I think with those circumstances, she did resort to doing what she needed to do to make it. And if that meant doing this rap group, signing to this record label, and basically doing whatever the label has told her to do, that's what she did. The city girls were not just rapping for years and got discovered. Of course, they were two people who were friends and knew each other, but I feel like Young Miami really was someone who lucked up into this opportunity, took it, ran with it, and made something happen. Good for her. So respect to that. However, I find it interesting that Young Miami doesn't want her daughter to be a city girl, but almost has a record of encouraging women to do things that she does. What did she say in the song Act Up? I bet your little sister want to look like me. I bet your little brother want to F1 me. And some people can say, oh, it's just music. It's not to be taken literal. It's just an art. But art does reflect reality in many cases. And if we want to be naive and say that these women aren't pushing the narrative for people to follow, then we're just being dumb. Young Miami wholeheartedly pushes a city girl life, lives by it, swears by it, and I'm sure we'll call somebody a hater or something if they don't agree with how she gets down. And we're just supposed to accept that. But for her own child, all of a sudden she's too good to be what she inflicts on other people's children. I also think it's interesting that she doesn't want her daughter to be a city girl for some reason, but didn't really say the reason. I think we all know that all of the women pushing this wave know that there is a downside to it, but have hyped it up so much that they don't want to acknowledge the underside so they can protect their brand. And honestly, her child is too good for this. If her baby ended up a city girl, I would actually be disappointed in her, because you shouldn't want your daughter to have to resort to getting with men for the sake of money and letting money be the epitome of their existence. And of course, you can argue that these entertainers are not role models and shouldn't be looked looked up to and revered by anyone. I always say that, but I always also say that as an entertainer, influencer, public figure of any sort, you have to be honest about your role in influencing your fan base. Being a city girl is super popular, and I think people don't necessarily realize how famous these girls really are and how much their movement through their lyrics, their look, and everything has influenced an entire generation of people. You can also argue that sex appeal and pushing this type of narrative has been around long before them. Yes, of course, but when you add social media to the mix and you add the mindset of Gen Z, where everybody just wants to fit in, individuality is not seen as cool, everybody cares about followers and likes, this is a whole different ball game. Like, for the people who were adults in the 80s and 90s and maybe even the early 2000s, I have to tell y'all, we are living in a different ball game that young people are living in right now. Everything is at your fingertips, and it's way easier to be influenced by this than it was 30 years ago. Especially when the narrative of the world is to have no morals, have no shame, and I'll call you every name in the book if you disagree with the crazy things that I'm doing. This really comes as no surprise to me because this is what celebrities are. They will influence you and your whole kindred with negativity, violence, degenerate behavior, things that will hinder your whole entire mental, but they'll never do that to their own, and that's why people need to wake up and learn to be an individual. I catch so much heat for the things I talk about on my channel, but I'm still going because it makes me an individual to go against the grain or just be real about the current state of society. There's a lot of young women who are very influenced by the city girl mindset and have been doing so for years since they've debuted. And although I do think Young Miami is correct in saying that her daughter isn't going to be what she is, she wants her to go to school, she is being raised differently, I still think it's fair to acknowledge what her influence has done on other young women who don't have the crutch of money and privilege to make a different choice.